Who's ready to bake chocolate chip cookies? That's pretend cookies. Do you love dramatic play or imaginative play, pretend play? But maybe your classroom is a little bit too small and you don't have a lot of space in that area, so you don't have space. Or maybe you're in a classroom that doesn't allow dramatic play. As early childhood educators, we know that it's so important for our kids to have an imaginative play, dramatic play, space, and that availability for them to learn and grow. So I'm going to share today a simple set that I have that can be used in addition to your dramatic play area or alongside your dramatic play area, and I'll share some of those ideas then. Or if you don't have that ability, you can use it just in your math center or your literacy center, somewhere that they can still use their imagination and creative skills to play, learn, and grow, but without the space issue maybe, or just having that designated dramatic play kitchen area that some schools are saying no to these days. Today we are busy baking chocolate chip cookies. Let me share how we can make chocolate chip cookies, and I'm going to show you why these are important still for our children to use in the classroom and the ways that you can incorporate your math skills, literacy skills, and some of the other things that are important for our children's foundation in their early childhood years. Okay, so first of all, of course, when we're teaching things to our children and using their imaginations, I always emphasize that to the kids so that they do not really think they're going to eat these or pretend. Now, in my classroom, a lot of times I do baking stuff. So we do a hands-on experience with baking. So if you're lucky enough to do that with your kids in a small school or in a big school or at home with your kids, that's great. They love that experience and there's so much involved in that. There's so much learning. So that's why I like to use these sets in my classroom. So first we're going to get our ingredients ready, and this set is awesome because it has differentiated steps so that depending on the age and the ability of your children, you could have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds for sure, 5-year-olds, even first graders or second graders can do this because we want this to become an independent activity for them to explore and learn and have some extra fun and some good memories. So this set does have differentiated instructions. So I'm going to start off with the simplest one. Is probably the one that I would use in my classroom of 4 and 5-year-olds at this time. But we need to see that we have. So I'm going to share the ingredients, and I have to preference that this is not a real recipe. Please do not try to cook off these. Yes, they are ingredients. I do reference real, true recipes that I've either used at home or in my classroom. But these are just for simplicity for both the kids and not to be overwhelmed, and for teachers to keep it simple. I don't have all the ingredients. As you notice, there's no baking soda or baking powder on this, or there's not salt, I believe, on this one. And those do need to be in chocolate chip cookies. So if you're baking, and I do this with my class at school, I always tell them that I didn't put all the ingredients in there, just for simplicity, as a teacher as well, because I might not have as many manipulatives to use. And sometimes this could be messy, but I'm going to give you some clues on how to keep it not too messy in the classroom. But first of all, we're going to start off with our flour. So we have flour here, and flour is, I have used pom-pom balls. If you know me, or if you followed anything, pom-pom balls are my go-to for props, especially in dramatic play, for a few reasons. One, they're fairly reasonable and inexpensive. They're easy to find, easy to get. They're a good size. They're soft, so when they fall down, they're not too loud, and they're if they get gross and I need to wash them, I stick them in the washing machine. And when they're really bad, I just throw them away, and they're inexpensive enough to purchase, and most schools will purchase those for you. But also, I want you to think of the sizes that you're using. With littler kids, I might use something that's a little bit larger. I'm at home this week, so we have snow. So that's why this is what I had on hand, but I may use bigger ones. I only say if you're using any of the sets that go with cooking, just make sure you differentiate between, like if you're using hot chocolate and chocolate chips, that maybe you use a larger one for hot chocolate and a smaller one for the chocolate chips, just so when they are done and they're sorting and cleaning up, that's easy for them to do on their own, because they're sorting sizes and stuff, get those math skills in. So depending on the age level that you have, cleaning up or just understanding size and variation. Make sure you could change all of these based on size and things. That's what I also love about pom-pom balls, because they make them mini ones all the way to giant big ones. So the other thing that we are going to need is sugars, and my sugars are just clear beads that are falling over, and I love them for two reasons, because that sugar is kind of crystal, or it looks like a crystal, right? So clear beads are perfect. They kind of make noise too, so that's always fun. And then for brown sugar, I have the same thing, but these have like a golden glitter in them. So perfect for our kids to do scooping brown sugar. I found these I didn't even find these. One of my mom friends found these for me, and she brought them into my classroom, and they're perfect. And they do have a lid on them, although it's not a secure lid like a twist top, which I actually love to have too. But I do have the lids on them so the kids can practice that eye-hand coordination as well. But today I just made them simple and kept them off there. We are also, of course, we're going to need eggs, and these are my favorite. I found these a few years ago at Hobby Lobby. I've also seen them at Michael's after Easter sale, but I love them because they're like an egg, and I just put in the yellow yolk, and then they have to practice putting them together and all of those things that help all of our kids with their small motor skills. And then I do have vanilla, and this was just a squeeze container that I found at the Dollar Tree. And I put in here, you can't see, it's not very good, but I put a brown felt that I have soaked with vanilla essential oils so they can actually smell it. So I know you can't smell it, but then because I didn't want to put anything super small in there, just another ingredient. So you don't always have to put something that can go into the bowl, although I actually prefer it that way, but certain things, like when I do water and oil and stuff, I just use it as a pretend. And sometimes if I do a liquid, I will hot glue the top on there. But I thought that this was fun because, again, they can squeeze it and then they're going to be able to smell it. So they're getting that sensory experience plus small motor work there. Of course, we're going to need butter. And these are just foam pieces cut into butter. And when I do that, it's because on here it says 3 butter, so they can practice counting. Because I know in some recipes they called for melted butter, but not in these recipes. So you won't have to worry about pretending with that. And of course I have then chocolate chips, which are also teeny tiny. Sometimes I've used even smaller ones, especially when I do my hot chocolate and they use it for sprinkles on top of their hot chocolate. I've used the mini pom-pom balls, but this is all I actually had in the house today. But that would include all the ingredients. So practicing teaching the children, hey, we need to make sure we have all of our ingredients before we get started. And this is the problem I make. I start with this and I forget to do the how-to. So this is really important to teach kids, is that you first gather all your ingredients, which is on our how-to card. It's to gather the ingredients. This is the simplest form for our friends that are not readers. These might be for emergent readers so they could see, and also you can be instructing. I actually prefer this one. So my kids are 5 by now, so I'm starting to see that they're starting to be getting sounds, things like that. So that's helping them, especially like mix, which is a CBC word, which they're starting to read. First, they're going to gather their ingredients, then they're going to mix their ingredients, then they're going to scoop their ingredients onto the cookie sheet, and then they're going to bake and then enjoy. So most of my sets only have 4 to 5 steps because I want to keep it simple. I know there's probably more steps in there. Save that for when they're a little bit older. And then this is the last one. It has a little bit more reading. So if you have a little bit older child that you want them to be reading the entire sentence of telling them what to do, that's perfect for them. Again, I want this to be exposed to them for an independent activity so that it could just be monitored and, hey, how are you doing stuff? So if they're not doing it perfect or correct, I can go over there and just say, remember, are you doing the steps? But really, I just want them the experience of pretending what they're using that they could actually be using in the kitchen at home with mom and dad, or if you're going to use it in the classroom as well, so you can compare and contrast what looks real and things like that. So I want to give them a close experience of what baking might be like, as well as we're doing a lot of counting. And then we're doing sequencing, what comes first, what comes next, all skills that are the beginning skills for early mathematics and early literacy. Of course, the other thing that we're going to need is some of our supplies. I like to use the scoops. Now, That's why these scoops are not labeled, so that you can pick any size scoop that you want that works with your classroom. For instance, if you have 3-year-olds and you want them to do it, I would suggest you use a smaller scoop with larger pom-pom balls. But if you have like a first grader, even kindergarten kids, a larger scoop is perfect, so they're going to start seeing that measurement and things. Now remember, early childhood is non-standard measurement, so there's no need to worry about if you have a 1 cup or a half cup or a 1/4 cup. I really love the ones that don't have labels. These I did buy at the Dollar Tree, and I have I bought so many of these over the years, sometimes because we use them for several different things. And what I like to do is I like to try to erase, I think it's alcohol or fingernail polish. You can remove that as best you can, or sometimes tape over it just so they don't see the numbers. But if they do, it is okay. They're not going to think that, oh, this was 1/4 compared to 1 cup. But remember, it's non-standard measurement. So that's what they're practicing here, seeing what a full one looks like, seeing what a full cup looks like. I try to teach them how you have to measure to the top, but you don't want a heaping one but I like to use these super easy dollar store. You can get a whole, the whole set. And then you can use the different scoops. So again, I did not put any actual numbers, so you could pick whatever size scoops you want. You would just need 2 different scoops here. And again, I use the smaller scoop because you'll see what it's used for sugar. That means less mess because my sugar is smaller. And you'll probably need a cookie sheet or a cookie tray. Of course, you're going to want a bowl so they can scoop all their ingredients into it and mix it up with their spoon. So I love to use the cooking bowls, and I love to use the bowls that have the handles so that they can learn that, like, you have to hold the bowl. And if they don't, what's going to happen? It goes everywhere. Those are experiences that kids need to learn. And of course, when we first start anything, we tell them if it falls out, you have to go pick it up. I have used it typically at a math center, but sometimes I also incorporate it into my sensory area. And a lot of times I will use this in addition to the dramatic play setup in my classroom, because I've been blessed to have a dramatic play set in my classroom. As you know, that I truly believe in imagination play. And then of course, you're gonna wanna put your cookies, this one does have cookies in the set. And I usually put it on like a round circle. That have a ton of these. I've used different sizes over the years, and they just have the Velcro, just like that popular brand. And then I could change it out. But this makes it a little bit thicker. And then also, I did not put a spatula in here, but a spatula also would be great for serving your cookies. And then, of course, sometimes we have our milk and cookies. This could be a little set, like I mentioned before. This could be in addition to your dramatic play. It could just be in your kitchen if you want to change up the kitchen. I know a lot of times teachers just use the kitchen all year, but you need something fresh and new. So there are a couple sets here that I have that are dramatic play. They're like the mini dramatic play sets, or they can be in addition to. This one is chocolate chip cookies, which can go with a lot of different themes, winter themes, or I actually have a train set that has the chocolate chip cookies and the milk and things. So maybe people are working on the front of the train and getting on the train, but the back end of the train still has to be cooking and preparing for its passengers. Also have a gingerbread, making gingerbread men. Hot chocolate, that's a new one that we just put out, is baking hot chocolate, which also goes with a hot chocolate stand or even on its own. And then cupcakes, so if you have a cupcake or a bakery, you could be making cupcakes as well. And this is just to help children learn that not everything is in the store, it's just magically there. There is prepared. Some children come with a lot of cooking experience, and some kids come with very little cooking experience. So whether you're cooking in the classroom or not, this is a fun way to show them how things happen before they get to the store or before they get to the restaurant. I hope that this gave you a little inspiration and ideas for you to do in the classroom or at home. If you have any questions or comments, leave me those down below. And don't forget, every day is a great day to play and learn.